Good morning. Graduation is more than a ceremony. It is a crossing over, a moment when you step into a new chapter of your life, from late nights staying up with friends, conversations at lunch tables, and countless hours spent in classrooms, to stepping out into a world that feels both familiar and unfamiliar. It marks the end of one journey and the beginning of another. But let's be honest, the journey to this day wasn't always easy. Maybe you felt out of place. Maybe you wrestled with fear, insecurity, or loneliness. Maybe you questioned if you were good enough, smart enough, strong enough. Maybe you felt like you were barely holding it together some days. I know these are all things that I've personally struggled with. Throughout my high school journey, I've struggled with my own mental health. There were times I felt alone and that there was no one who truly understood me. This feeling is crippling. There were days that I did not feel any energy or a push to go out and be myself, in fear that I was not enough. Being openly gay added another obstacle to this. Growing up in a small town such as Faulkner or Jamestown, there are not large amounts of acceptance of being gay. There have been numerous times where I didn't feel safe, or I felt as if I had to hide myself in fear of judgment, or worse. I struggled a lot with this feeling growing up. I didn't understand why God would have made me this way, if so many viewed it as wrong. For years, I was extremely resentful for something I couldn't control. I can recall sitting at the edge of my bed, praying to God that He would turn me straight, so I could be like all the other boys, hoping I would fit in. But as I've matured, I've realized this is the way God intended me to be, and that there's nothing wrong with who I am. Others' opinions of us should not hold us back from being ourselves. Thankfully, I'm surrounded by people who have been supportive of me, being raised by two loving parents who have taught me to always be myself, friends who have gotten me through some of the hardest times of my life, and all those who have shown acceptance and love towards me. I'm forever grateful. Similarly, the man that we meet in today's gospel may have shared these same feelings of self-doubt. He lived among tombs, alone, cast out, and burdened. He was bound by chains both literally and metaphorically. He carried voices inside and around him, telling him he was broken, lost, and unworthy. But then Jesus shows up. Jesus doesn't ignore him. He doesn't judge him. Jesus sees him, and he meets him where he is, in the mess and the pain, in the middle of the noise, and he restores him. He calls him back to life. By the end of the story, the man is sitting at Jesus' feet, clothed and in the right mind. He's found peace. He's found himself. And the people around him, the same ones who cast him out, are afraid, not because he's dangerous, but because he's transformed, because he's free, because he's whole. As I stand here today on the verge of graduation, I believe my transformation might surprise some people, and that's perfectly fine. This moment is not just about grades or degrees. It's about everything I've overcome to get here. It's about my resilience in the face of fear, doubt, and anxiety. It's about overcoming the voices that told me I wasn't good enough. I remind myself of this: your grades do not define you. Sure, they matter, but in the long scheme of things, people are not remembered for their accomplishments. They're remembered for who they are. I believe I'm leaving a strong mark of who I am, not just as a student, but as a person who's willing to live my truth no matter what. Life is too short to be hung up on whether you ace that test or put down the right answer to question 17. In the grand scheme of things, those things matter far less than how we treat others, how you live with integrity, and how you choose to be present in the moment. Life is happening around us right now, so don't miss it. Be optimistic about what your future holds, but don't miss the beauty of where you are right now. These are just some of the things I like to remind myself daily, and some of the values I live my life by. Now, I would be lying if I said I wasn't scared of leaving home and going off to college. In fact, I'm terrified. I'm going to a new place where I don't know anyone. I have no friends coming with me to use as crutches or to cling to. I have no parents to take care of me every time I need something. For the first time in my life, I will be on my own. But under all this fear, I know I'm capable. I know I will succeed. This spring break and the spring break before, I traveled to foreign countries, Paris and Italy. Both of these explorations, I was frightened. Just like college, I was going into an unknown place, somewhere I wasn't familiar with. But I adapted to these conditions, and I'm sure if you ask my grandmother, who I traveled with, or my fellow St. Luke's friends who accommodated me on my trip to Italy, they would tell you that I adapted pretty well, almost passing as a native. I'm sure I will be able to become accustomed to college life and be able to enjoy the journey that it takes me on. And like the man in the story, I sometimes wish I could stay in a safe, familiar place, stay at Jesus' feet, and what I know. As much as I want to leave and start my future, it's hard to say goodbye to something I've known my entire life. But Jesus says something powerful. Return to your home and declare how much God has done for you. In other words, he's calling us to live our story, go into the world, and show what strength looks like. Let your life be a testimony, not to your intelligence, but to your resilience, not just to your education, but to your faith. Go forward not with fear, but with courage. Go forward not in your own strengths alone, but trusting that the one who brought you this far is not finished with you yet. And I encourage you all to do the same. Be brave, be bold, step into your next chapter, knowing that God is with you every step of the way.